Benchmark Business Sales and Valuations proudly presents the Meaning Business Podcast, hosted by Coudrey and Peter Spinda. This is the podcast for anyone serious about buying, selling, and preparing your business for maximum growth.
So I told you, Bruce, a little while back that 2007, I started a recruitment agency. And that was very successful business, grew really quickly. Within about 14 months, we had 7 staff, my business partner, myself, 9 of us, full-time employees. And we made the decision to manage costs, to not have any rented office space or to buy office or anything like that. And it worked well. We had a team working from home. And this is 2007 when working from home wasn't really the norm. You know,
They were all in the same city?
No. Actually, we were spread across Australia. Okay. So
yeah, right.
we were just spread around.
Yeah.
My theory was, and it still is today, that when I'm putting someone on, it's not necessarily about the location or anything like that. It's about who's the best fit for the role.
Competence.
And I handpicked these individuals. That's right. And these were people that had come out of the industry. I knew them. I saw their work. I tapped them on the shoulder. So they were headhunted by me. Every single one of them were headhunted, put on the team. What a great team. We had one particular lady who, I'll never forget this. She's a really strong performer. When I got to first find out about her, tapped her on the shoulder, convinced her to come on board with me, and et cetera, et cetera. She was really good for the first few months. And then we started noticing that communication started dropping, started having some issues with the quality of her work. And we had some customer complaints. And that was a bit of quite a big red flag for me. Now, in this particular instance, we had quite an urgent issue that needed to be sorted with one of her recruitment engagements. And I was being chased by the medical boards who were recruiting medical doctors, and she wasn't responsive, and they were waiting on documents, et cetera, et cetera. And it got to a point where I had no option other than get in my car and drive to her home. And luckily, she was based in Brisbane, so I couldn't contact her. She wouldn't pick up the phone, no email, so I went to her house, knocked on the door. She opens the door, smiling, happy, everything like that. And I thought,
Did she know you were coming?
No, she didn't know I was coming because she didn't respond to anything. So I was just like, okay, I'm going to surprise you and see whether you're actually working. She's a salaried employee, not commissioned or anything. She's on the clock.
But you must have thought something wasn't right.
I definitely thought something wasn't right because it just wasn't her in the beginning days. So she calls me in, and I knew she had a home office because I've been at her home before. And to get to the home office, we had to walk past the kitchen. So we're walking past the kitchen. I already suspected there was something wrong by the smell that I was smelling as I walked into the house. And I thought, okay, that's an interesting odor. And, it could be an incense sticks or could be something else. So I walk past the kitchen, and as I walk past, to the left of me there's the kitchen bench. And what do I see? There's the bong, there's the weed grinder, there's the bag of weed. And I'm like, okay. Put it together, explains the smell. So I, in a very amused fashion, I sort of pointed that out, and we had a conversation, and she admitted she'd taken a few hits of the bong and blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, okay, this is interesting. So we sat down, and I said to her, look, what's going on? Because you were such a good performer when you first started. You were such a good performer with the other company. What's going on? What happened? So it turned out that she was having marriage problems, and turned out she was having all sorts of issues in her personal life. And as a result of having those issues, and she had no one to talk to at home because we were all home-based, she really didn't develop those strong collegiate sort of relationships with, have those sort of intimate conversations. That's right. So she didn't confide in me that normally you would. So I found out in that conversation that she's going through all this personal health. She's struggling to cope, anxiety, so she's turned to smoking weed, and it's become such a habit that it started off at using nighttime to sleep. It's now become morning, lunchtime, and clearly it's affecting work. So what I learned in that moment was that the working from home structure is very good in theory, but in the real world, we have to really adjust the working home situation, depending on the situation, depending on the person, depending on their tenure. And we really need to be building relationships with our team members before we give them that ability to just purely work from home. So that's what we want to talk about today, the discussion of, well, is working from home good or bad? Should we or shouldn't we support it as business owners? We know where we sit right now, post-COVID, it's the norm.
Yeah.
And in fact, the younger generation coming through, it's the expectation.
Yeah.
I'm not going to work from your office 5 days a week. Why should I come to your office 5 days a week?
I know someone who, to digress, but make it interesting, but you just reminded me. I know someone who left high school, went to university, graduated university with tertiary, high qualifications as an accountant and economics, got a job with the government department, and during COVID started work and was working from home. And finds it quite hard, I think, to work in an office now, because they've worked for 2 or 3 years at home. Getting into an office environment, they can't socialise very well.
Yep.
They don't feel comfortable there, and it's just not good for them. And this is the interesting thing. I think it's been a fairly quick switch from office-based employment, whether it be in a small business or a big corporate office or government department, to working from home. It's happened fairly quickly.
Absolutely.
And obviously, the COVID period
Yeah.
exacerbated and brought that forward. But there are some pros and cons. There's some great benefits in it, and there's some real negatives, like the lady that was smoking pot at home. By the way, you employed her.
I did employ her. I did. And look, but like I said at the beginning, and it was good when the situation for her was good. And
But you couldn't identify when things went bad.
No, I couldn't identify that. And that
Might have been different issues in the office.
That's right. And that also highlights the challenge of managing people in a remote sort of situation. So
There's an extra layer.
absolutely. And there's definitely pros and cons. I've listed a bunch of these. So if we look at the cons, one of the issues is that people can be lonely working from home. And not only do they become lonely, and this is depending on your persona, but a lot of people can become lonely. But not only that, but they don't build the strength in the relationships which traditionally would within a face-to-face work environment. And like with her, I honestly believe that if I had the office, if I was there, I can pick up on the behavior changes. You can see when someone's going through a change in mental state, going through a negative period, and you can pull them in an office. I can say, Bruce, so are you okay? What's going on? But you often can't pick up on those cues, not verbal cues,
On Zoom.
the physical cues on Zoom. Because it's easy to play the chameleon on Zoom for 30 minutes or an hour.
Yeah.
But it's very different watching you mope around and the shoulders slump in the real world.
Yeah.
And it's also very different in the real world, where often when people go through these sort of challenging personal times, they also change the way that they appear. So they put less effort in their appearance. Their hair is unkempt. Their clothes are unironed, smelly, whatever it might be. Yeah. You can't pick up on it when you're virtual. So that's one of the issues. The other issues of work from home is the distractions, Oh, the laundry on. I go, whatever it might be. Posties here, and I got delivery from Amazon. I'm going to unpack the box.
Exactly. When I was working at home during that COVID period, I did not realise how much discipline it took for me to keep working, because, within an instant, I'm unpacking the dishwasher, or I'm putting the washing in or out because it started raining.
That's right.
Or I'm putting the bin out for the garbage collection or something. All those things I wouldn't be doing if I was in an office. But up there, it's a 10-minute interruption, and, it takes 20 minutes to get started.
And you believe you've got to do it in the moment for whatever reason.
Conscious, I'm just automatically going, but
that's right. And that's one of the biggest issues with the work from home. The distraction. It's the fact that we're easily distracted. People are very, very susceptible to putting things off, to procrastination, to all those sort of activities. Yeah. And when there's no one watching you, the accountability drops significantly. Even if you've got KPIs to meet and things like that, it's very easy to get into that avoidance mode. And the other issue with the work from home, and this is particularly for the younger generation, not necessarily younger in terms of age, but younger in terms of experience in a particular industry, is that often you might not know what to do or how to do it. And you can't get the immediate answer by tapping your colleague on the shoulder and say, hey, Bruce, listen, I've got this issue. What would you do?
Yeah.
You're then often reliant on, I'm waiting for Bruce to call me back. I'm waiting for an email to come back, or whatever it might be. And that results in you getting frustrated, you put off the work, and the quality just isn't there. So the development component of the skills, the knowledge of that individual isn't addressed adequately enough, I believe,
Yeah.
in the work from home environment.
What
other
other
thing-
negatives you got?
The last one, which is also a big one, is the back and forth. So when you're sitting with someone, so if I'm sitting, let's say, in an office, and let's say you're working on a project together. It's so much easier sometimes to sit down with someone. You and I are working on something, Bruce. We can sit down together in an hour. We can smash it out. We can smash through the questions and things that you've got to do. But when you're working from home, all of a sudden you might find that you're sending 50 emails back and forth, because, well, nowadays people just prefer to send emails instead of calling, whereas a call, a face-to-face visit of an hour could eliminate days of back and forths. So they're the big issues. So the distractions, the back and forths, and that inability to truly develop skills and knowledge in the remote.
And the body language. I've got a few more.
Language.
I've got a few more.
Yep.
And body language. I thought of more you're talking.
Good.
You inspired me.
See, face-to-face.
That's right. Exactly. This is a small way that might make sense. But because we're working from home has become so normalised, Zoom meetings and Teams meetings, those sorts of things become quite normal too. And I think it's an easy way for people to hide or not really be in the moment. So if you're in a Zoom meeting and it's boring, quite a lot of people are on this. You can see them in a Zoom meeting. They're like on the screen, they're checking their emails.
To be honest.
Of course, you see it all the time. Or they're on their phone.
Yep.
And, or, this is a new one. I don't know if you've seen this. You can tell if two parties in the Zoom conference meeting are texting each other.
Oh, yes.
Or messaging each other. Because you can see them. There's two people I know particularly in a group that get into that. And they're always mucking around. And somebody else knew about this and asked one of them a question. They had no idea what was going on. They had no idea what the conversation was about.
So true.
They weren't ready. So it creates inefficient meetings and inefficient productivity. And it's led to the point where I was in a meeting yesterday like this. Probably nearly half the cameras are off. You were in that meeting. So that's not right either, because people are they really there? Are they really
Exactly. This is, I just want my name to be seen, but you know what? I've got you on
I'm just
view.
dragging my ass in here, and am I really a part of it? No, probably not. So I think that's a negative. This ability to pretend to be engaged but not really engaged means that people aren't communicating effectively in those important sometimes or not.
And that point, what you just highlighted, is one of the key issues with online learning. One of the key issues with these universities taking their courses online and offering self-paced is the fact that are you really there? Are you really learning?
That's
are you
right.
really engaging? Or are you just becoming a robot where you just sort of pick up the necessary points, get the exam done, you got your certificate, you got your MBA, in my case.
Yeah.
But did you really learn anything of value?
Exactly.
Were you really there?
All you've got is a piece of paper, not even paper probably, but a virtual certificate.
Yep.
But have you got confidence? Have you got nous? Have you got what's the word? Agility. Have you got the ability to apply what you've learned? That's something I think is much more readily conveyed and achieved in a face-to-face personal environment. Same with an office. Not just training, but when we're talking about things, when we're in the same room, there's an energy that we give each other and we receive off each other. Sometimes it's what you don't say that, people pick up on.
Absolutely.
You can't really get that online or being at home.
No, and you can't build relationships. So I've got a rule within the advisory space. This is a rule for myself and a rule for the team. And it's very simple. Regardless of where your client is in the world, you need to meet them at least once.
Oh, yeah.
At some point in the engagement, preferably early on.
Yeah.
At least once.
Yeah. Same in business sales.
That's right.
You have to meet. This is a people business. Clients don't engage benchmark as their business broker. They engage the individual broker. You've got to meet that broker, have a relationship with the broker, maintain communication with the broker, and it has to start by, or at least at some point in the early stages, there has to be face-to-face.
It has to be.
To build trust and confidence and understanding.
It also shows the other person that, I care enough about this engagement that I'm going to come down, and it might be I'll hop on the plane, go to Sydney, have a cup of coffee, and then I come back just for a cup of coffee.
Exactly.
People might think, why are you doing that?
No, you got to do it.
I'm doing it because that's how you build a relationship.
Exactly. And it's easy. But we're getting into, if we're not careful, this working from home thing has these knock-on effects of disassociating ourselves and saying, oh, we don't need to be there. And, it's a hassle for me to go here or there, which it isn't. A guy years ago, Kim Jakes, he used to be on Melbourne radio, and he's a very good real estate guy, commercial real estate guy. He said to me once, he said, if you get a contract, you get it signed personally. You get a deposit check, you go and pick it up personally. You got a deal, you make sure that the buyer and seller and you're face-to-face, and you sort it out personally, not just by putting a bit of ink on a page or signing a DocuSign. That it's that physical handshake that seals the deal that's so important to what we're doing. So there's another thing I think which is a negative about this working from home world, and I might elaborate on it a bit more later on now, which is this ability to disconnect. Mm-hmm. So Jay was saying to us earlier that he knows people that work from home and they're sitting on their bed. So they're literally almost like in their bedroom when they wake up, they're in their bedroom when they work, they're in their bedroom when they go to sleep. So there's very little disconnection between
work and home
and little delineation. And a negative, there's several negatives. And one of those is that if you're working from home and you're inefficient because you're putting out the bins and taking the washing in and making lunch and feeding the dog, whatever you end up doing, cleaning the pool, and you haven't got your work done, it's 5 o'clock. You'll end up working later into the day and blending work and home and rest. And it's just a big mess. There's no delineation.
But even if you can get your work done between those hours, whatever your hours are, there still is always that risk that you just can't shut down, because psychologically home equals not just home, but home also equals work. So therefore, you're always on. You're always, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, you're checking your emails, you're responding to this, you're responding to that. Now, for some people, like me, for example, I do it because I love it, and I love my work, and I've structured my life so that there's an adequate balance. So it's not overworking, but not underworking. But most people aren't able to develop these skills, and they struggle to...
They fall into it unconsciously.
Yeah.
So you end up with this blancmange mess, inefficient work day at home, not getting the work done, inefficient relaxation time or family time because you're still trying to get work done. It's not good. So...
But it feels like at the moment, to anyone listening and watching this, they're probably thinking, all right, so you guys are clearly anti-work.
No.
We're banging it on the head. But we're not. So this is just the
we're going to balance it with the positives.
Balance it.
Yeah. But I still want to dwell on this negative a bit more.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, okay. So
we'll keep hitting it.
So what this guy, Dr. Adam Fraser, an Aussie guy, has a theory about the third space, and how we need a third space between work and home to be able to disconnect between work and home and stop that thing I was just talking about where your bedroom becomes your office and everything. And he says that you need to be able to reflect, rest and reset in the third space. So you don't bring your work problems home and you don't take your home problems to work. They're separate. And in the old days in the 60s and prior to that in Australia, a man would work, woman probably didn't. The man would go to the pub and then the man would come home. Or he'd go to the RSL or the club or the football club or the tennis club. And these days it might be a gym or something else like that.
Yeah, what I used to do.
Or walks.
As you're talking about it, what I used to do when the kids were little, just little, we had three young kids, very
twins,
twins, and my daughter, and they were maybe 1, 2 years old. I'd come home sometimes from work and just, stressful day. And I'm like, okay, I say to myself, I became a dad for a reason. I want to be there for my kids. I don't want to walk in the door. I don't want to pick up a toy. And while I'm playing with my kids, I'm thinking about the work. So what I used to do when it was stressful is I'd sit in the car, turn the car off, and I'd sit there for 2-3 minutes. Not long, just a few minutes.
Yeah.
Do exactly that. Just have a think about, okay, what's happened, relax the mind, deep breath, and go, right, I'm going to walk in that door. I'm going to leave my work behind, even if it's just for 15 minutes while I kiss my kids, cuddle them, and play with them. Because I don't want to be thinking about anything but be there in the moment with my kids. Yeah. And that was so powerful.
Yeah.
That then set the rest of the night up for me. And yes, sometimes, the mind switches back to what happened during the day.
Because it's probably not resolved,
But the power of being able to pause and like you said, that sort of third space is so important because it allowed me to be in the moment with my kids and not lose that moment.
So a lot of people have used the car trip home from work as the third space. You ruin that by getting on the phone, talking to people at work. But if you just listen to music or a podcast or something, entertainment.
But that's just highlighted a big issue with the work from home, is that we're not in the car. We don't have the 15 to 30 minutes.
There is no third space, and that's what I was getting at. Yeah.
And so people need to find something for themselves.
We need it.
And in fact, I personally find the best thing for me anyway is to get out of the office and get into the forest. Nothing like going away from whatever it suits people.
Yeah, forest great.
And just go,
yeah.
you know.
But because this is a relatively new thing, and it is the future, right? We're still figuring out how to make it work efficiently and properly and better and get rid of those things we've just raised as issues, right?
In fact, I know we can make it work. I know how what structure works.
Yeah. So that's some negatives.
Yeah.
I'm going to just touch on one more. Somebody was telling me that to break the link between work and relaxation, they have to have a couple of glasses of wine, watch television. Do you know who that person was?
I don't know, Bruce. Who could that person be?
Some alcoholic. But that is, I think the way you explained it to me was like it was an innate genetic or, human thing that you needed to do. You didn't consciously think I need it. But you did need that.
So
break that habit.
It's a habit. So what I do is, you got your routines, and we're very much routine focused as a family. Rule in our house is ideally by 7:30, kids have washed their teeth, they're in bed, they're reading. We have half an hour to an hour of reading time every single night where possible. Now, the moment the kids get in bed, dishes are done by about 8:15. When that moment hits and I see, okay, kids are done, dishes are done, I can now sit down with my wife. That's the moment when something triggers in my mind. I go, I can relax now. I have my glass of wine. I can watch a TV show. And for a period of 2-3 hours, however long we choose at that particular moment, it's just us, my wife and I, and it's just in the moment, not work, nothing else. It's just watching some crappy show or watching a documentary. And that's that unwinding and getting ready for the next day, because every day is busy by choice. Every day we move forward, and every day we succeed. We achieve a lot of things.
But you can't be on all the time. You shouldn't. We're not made for that.
That's right. And that's that off period. And that's that for me, because the home is such a work environment. We've been working from home for many, many years now. That's the way that I distinguish between work and home.
You need to create that break, that separation.
There is one other thing, sorry.
Good.
Separation. We've got a high-set house. So the office is downstairs.
Yes.
Upstairs is the home. Now, when we're both working from home, my wife prefers to work from upstairs, and she's got particular space that she uses. So that space represents the work environment. My downstairs is my work environment. And so we're not mixing the home. So I'm able to go, okay, I'm out of the office.
That's your workspace,
Now I'm at home.
That's a good habit, because when you get in there, that's where you work.
That's right.
But if you're sitting at the kitchen bench or at the dining table and working and eating, it's no delineation.
It's a very different thing. And the other thing that I do is I have two types of work. There's very focused, turned on, tuned work. For that, go downstairs, work on the computer. Then there's the other type of work. The other type of work is more, I'll call it the visionary, the working on the business, the strategic, the fun type. I actually tend to do that on the balcony, sitting on the balcony, looking over the swim.
Yeah, you can do it in a cafe.
Just relaxing, and that allows my mind to be more creative. It's a creative type of work. So again, work from home can be structured in different ways.
Yeah, exactly. You can even have places in the home where this is where I am creative or strategic. This is where I get stuff done that just I've got to do.
That's right.
This is where I do the things I don't want to do before I can relax.
That's right.
And so that takes me to another place. Sorry, you just said it before. You got to focus. If you want to work at home, you have to focus. You have to be disciplined, and you have to. I think the key to discipline I've observed is rewarding yourself. So when I get this job done, I'm going to have a coffee. When I get this job done, I'm going to have a break. When I get this job done, I'll have lunch. And you don't do that, have those breaks until you get that job done.
That's right.
When you're working at home, if you apply any level of discipline to avoid things, avoid being interrupted, it's much more effective. But we need to do that. We need to. I've also noticed that it's again in this evolutionary thing. Maybe I'm showing my age by saying this, but some people, well, in the old days of the 60s and 70s, no one had headphones or earbuds on or was listening to music while they were working. Nobody. And I think many of us work better with music or other things going on, but it can be too much. So getting that distraction level right is personal, I'm sure.
You're right, 100%, because I notice on myself, depending on the type of work, will determine what I've got on or haven't got on. And, if I'm writing an article, in many cases I won't have any music going because I need to think. I don't need the lyrics. So if I'm writing an article and I want music, I'll play electronic music personally that doesn't have any vocals.
It's just a melody.
So it's not a distraction.
Yeah.
But sometimes when I'm doing other types of work, I want music because that just drives me.
Yes.
Other times it irritates me. So it's really situational.
Yes.
And that's where you got to learn your own habits, how you operate, how you work.
That's where this discipline comes from. And by the way, it's not for working from home is not for everybody.
No.
I know here at Benchmark, some guys have to come to the office every day and they're very effective that way. Other guys work from home super efficiently. So everyone's different. It's not for everyone.
And it's also
the same with music.
Industry dependent as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you've got a retail store, so there are caveats in terms of the whole working from home. Exactly. It's got to work.
But even if you own
a
retail store, you still got to do some bookkeeping and planning at home.
Which you can do at home.
Yeah.
But you can only do it effectively if you have the habits.
Yeah. So just on the music thing, two things.
Yep.
If I'm writing something illegal, reading a legal document, like a lease or legislation, I really have to have silence. I've got to focus and understand the nuances of every word. Other times, that sort of classical music is really helpful. Or not classical, but it could be jazz or something.
Yep.
I don't know if you've heard, but there's this thing about certain beat.
Yes.
I think it's called a pentameter in Pachelbel's canon and work music like that. And if you get music with that right beat, it stimulates you. It helps you to get work done. So there can be good and bad habits in working from home. And I just thought about, before we get prepared for this, one of my heroes, someone here might laugh about this, is Jerry Seinfeld. I think the guy's amazing. He's got a great car collection, so obviously that's impressive.
Plus,
he's obviously had a great business career. He's making an incredibly interesting new movie about Pop-Tarts, which is coming out soon, with a great cast. But he was asked what his secret to success was. And he said three things: exercise, meditation, and coffee. I guess there was part of a joke in that. But the thing is that meditation is really been powerful for him in being successful. And every day around 1 o'clock, he just zones out and then he gets back into it, refreshes. So getting into those good habits if you're working from home, obviously we're still developing it, but it's super important. Even if you're not a great work from home or work alone type person, you need to develop some good habits to do that, to become efficient.
And that sort of ties in neatly with the next section, which is about, what are the pros?
Yeah, it's
on the head.
About time.
But the reality is that when a business gets it right, when the employees and staff, the team gets it right, you become really effective. Because if we look at it from an individual's perspective, if I'm not having to drive an hour and a half to work, if I don't have to spend half an hour getting ready for work, all of a sudden you're freeing up 2, 3, 4 hours every day. And so you can get your work done. You've got more time for me time, more time for family time.
Oh, it's massive.
It's, you don't have the distractions that you might have in an office. So some of the pros include...
Sorry, can I just go that quickly? Efficiency. So for me, it's a 40-minute drive from my house to either office in Queensland. 40 minutes. But that's not 40 minutes that I'm losing. It's at each end of the day, so it's 80 minutes. Then before I go, I have to get ready.
Yep.
If I'm working from home, I don't have to. Yep. So it might be 10 or 15 minutes there. And when I get to work, there's at least 20 minutes of talking to people and setting up, turning on my computer, turning the lights on, getting the air conditioning right. So not so long on that. At the end of the day, But I'm reckoning over 2 hours is lost in going to and from the office, which if I work from home, let's have a shower, get dressed, and I go straight to work, bang.
Easily.
And I finish 5 o'clock, whatever time I want.
Easily.
I've got a lot more time to work. I've got a lot more done if I'm working.
If I'm coming down to the Gold Coast from where I live at the Gap, and normally it's peak hour traffic and I can't avoid it, I'm estimating up to 2 hours one way. So say about an hour and 50 down, an hour and 50 back. So that's almost 4 hours of driving.
Yep.
Now, obviously, I make it productive by the way that I listen to audiobooks, phone calls, and all that sort of stuff. But the point is, you're still driving. Like you said, you get ready, you get it set up, et cetera, et cetera. So working from home has a lot of benefit in mass sense. Now, the other big benefit is just the fact that by allowing people to work from home, you're actually empowering that individual as a leader. And you're basically saying to that person, Bruce, I trust you. I trust that you're an adult. You know what to do. I don't need to check up on you. So it actually can help minimize the whole effect of micromanagement. And by giving people that trust, you could actually boost their morale. You could boost their productivity simply by saying to someone, I trust you to do that.
Because you're giving them responsibility. They take responsibility. It's encouraging them. And that's good business.
Absolutely. So there can be a lot of positive benefits in that sense, that they're in their home environment, they feel like they're valued by their organisation, they don't need to be checked up on. So that's probably one of the biggest
I'll go back to what you just said, though. I do think that people need to be checked up on. I think if you
they
still
need to be checked up.
Accountability.
But what I'm saying is that if you empower them to do that, there's less likelihood they're going to be micromanaged.
There's more trust.
That's right.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. The thing with it is that if you've just employed someone fresh, it's actually, in my opinion, very risky to say, hey, you're going to work from home 5 days a week, day one.
That's right.
Because you haven't built a relationship.
Or routines or understanding. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's not necessarily about purely work from home from day one. It's got to work in this situation. And not everyone can be trusted to work from home for various reasons. Because some people just haven't got the ability to get into the habit mode.
Yeah.
And said, easy to turn on Netflix because the show's playing and washing machine and all of a sudden.
I just mentioned accountability. Even with the trust, I still think that the working from home scenario does require more checks and balances and accountability. Just like you dropping in and seeing the lady had some complaints about, if you didn't check on her,
absolutely,
it would have gone worse. So whilst we have trust and responsibility, there also needs to be just routine, good habit, good best practice to check on how things
absolutely. And what I tie it back to is outcomes. So in my case, for example, the entire team, everybody is work from home. So we've got offices we can come into, but the majority of the time we'll work from home. But because with my team, some of the relationships I've got and I've had for, say, 10 years or so, some of the team members, I know their work output so well now that I just don't have to worry about it because it just gets done. I just know that if James or someone else on my team or Farah or someone else says, I'm going to get it done, it gets done.
Yeah.
So over time, the trust gets to such a level within business with team members that when they're effective enough, they just get it done.
So,
that's where the work from home works really well.
The guy I know was at a business lunch at the Star Casino. Saw one of his team members who's supposed to be working from home downstairs. Rang them. Because he could watch them in an elevated position. They went off to a quiet spot, took the phone call, said, can you check this email? He baited them. And that's why you've got to have... And this was one of their most trusted people, running several medical practices.
And that's what I was going to highlight, that even with trust, if we go back to that individual, that employee of mine who I thought, okay, I could trust this individual.
Yeah.
It can break down very quickly.
Yeah.
If circumstances change, if situations change.
It just needs to be... Because it's just like anything, I suppose. If you let a kid loose in a candy shop and say, don't eat the candy, they're probably going to... It's only a matter of time before they taste it. So we do have to, human nature, give ourselves some rules and regulations and discipline about that. And I think it's the same with meetings. We need to have discipline about meetings and not turn the camera off, or, make them shorter or more interactive so people have responsibility to participate.
Absolutely.
And I think in effective home working from home in the future, that sort of stuff will happen.
I think the future of it all is a hybrid model. I honestly don't believe in 5 days a week work from home. I think the hybrid is you work from home 2-3 days a week, one of those two, and it might be some weeks, week 1 you're 3 days, next week you're 2 days, 3 days, and then the rest
What about
of
hours?
in the office.
What about the hours? Could that flex as well?
See, that's an interesting question. My answer to that, and this is just based on my situation in my business, is that my perspective, as long as the output is what it needs to be and the outcome is what it needs to be and people are doing what needs to be done in a timely fashion, we're meeting deadlines, expectations, client expectations, then I don't really care what time you work. If you want to get up at 3 a.m. and you want to start work at 3:30 because you're a morning person and work through till 12 o'clock and then come midday, you that's it. I'm fine with that, as long as you get the work done. However, there's also another layer to that, is that if I need you at 3 o'clock, if there's a client issue, you've got to be available.
This is what I was going to get to.
That's right.
Because we've got this new disconnect legislation.
That's right.
Which says, essentially, as I understand it, you outside work hours,
Contact.
yeah, if the employer can't contact the employee, which if they're working flexible hours or from home, or there needs to be potentially in some cases a caveat or some sort of exceptional rule to that. You can't just say, in most businesses, I get it, 9 to 5, that's it, you finish work, and that's the best way ideal way to do it.
I think that's good practice and habit.
Yeah, absolutely, it's fine. Nothing should be potentially should be that urgent. But there are people in business who just need, in certain business types, where you just need to be able to contact people. I know one of my daughters works in a hospital, and there was only certain staff who had access to certain medical areas, and they have to be able to be contacted or provide keys or codes or whatever after hours. So that disconnect legislation, I understand the purpose and the need for it, but as work becomes more flexible and we're working from home more and more, I think also there needs to be some flexibility with that disconnect 100%. Rules.
It's got to be fluid. So there's two reasons.
Black and white.
Well, two main reasons is, number one, more and more businesses are becoming less regional, if that makes sense. So more and more businesses have got team players, individuals that live outside the state, outside the city, outside the country.
That's right. Like your guys.
We've got team all over the place. Mm-hmm. So
literally,
if I've got someone in in Texas, and then I've got someone in Calcutta, and then there's myself from Brisbane. Sometimes the three of us need to get together and talk, and that might mean that I've got to get up at 4 a.m, or someone else gets up at 4, or someone else gets online at 9 o'clock at night, whatever it might be. Or if I've got to talk to someone who's in Texas, for example, and it's a Friday afternoon for them, well, that's a Saturday morning for me, and I've got to do it. So the reality is that we've got to be able to adjust based on that. Now, the other thing is, like you said before, if someone's working in a hospital, or on my team, if I've got a systems engineer and someone's server goes down, and it's a client that we've got on, and the server goes down for that client, it's 9 o'clock at night on a Friday night. I'm sorry, but you're going to get a phone call because the client needs the website, because it's a business tool that the business doesn't operate. Yeah. So we have to have that flexibility. Yeah. And that's the issue that I've got with these sort of legislations, that you sort of put them on because, well, it's just easier to chuck the one stick approach, one rule approach to everybody.
It's not that simple. Yeah.
It's not that simple.
I guess the other thing applies too, though, that if we're working all sorts of hours, we should be able to take time off all sorts of hours as well, and be flexible in that regard. And someone who works for us has got today off because they did some training last Saturday. Yep. And that's the way we should be flexible in that regard as well. It can't just be hard and fast, 9 to 5, that's the hours, take it or leave it,
Very much so. I personally believe gone are the days where we're literally monitoring every minute. We're literally, every minute has to be accounted for. We've got everything documented, and I think today's society has to be a lot more fluid.
Yeah,
in
and that could be a good thing. Talking about that though, and I'm sure we're still good. Have you got more positives yet? Because
look, the other positive that I wrote down is that you actually could get a lot more things done. If you had, especially when you've got a hybrid structure, if you said to someone like, Bruce,
yes,
Monday, Tuesdays, you're going to work from home. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, if you come into the office, then Monday, Tuesdays, because I've just empowered you as a result of that empowerment, you could become an absolute superstar. And in 2 days, you could do 4 days worth of work. Not because you've worked more, but you've had that ability to focus. You've decided, right, I'm here to do my job. I don't want to work outside, 9 to 5, whatever it might be. You just smash it. And I know I've had some days where I finish a day's worth of work and I think, shit, I reckon I've done 3 or 4 days worth of work today.
Yes, I've seen that.
Productive.
I know a lawyer who, during COVID, smashed work out and got heaps done and was really loving it, but got into a bad routine, started by ordering Coles home delivery groceries.
Yep.
And then he said to me, did you know they've got really healthy food on either Uber Eats? You can get some really healthy food. So he never left his house. He was in the house without moving.
Yeah.
He had to physically get himself going, But there can be some great efficiency and some relaxation. And if you can get 8 hours worth of work done in 6 hours, why not?
Why not?
Take a break and go for a swim or...
Well, and that's the other thing. Like some days, right? Some days you just hit a wall, you get frustrated with something, whatever it might be, and you just need to stop working and you just got to put the tools down and go, right, it might be 11 o'clock on a Wednesday, and it's like, nah, I've had enough. I'm going to go for a bike ride. And if you're working from home, you can do that. You go off, and as long as the trust is there, you go for a ride for an hour or two, you come back refreshed.
So really, in this sort of situation, as long as people are getting the results, it doesn't really matter that much, does it?
That's right.
And that's probably where we're heading in the future. So where does this leave us, Pete? What's the future?
Well, the future is work from home. The future is work from the office. So the future is actually both. I think the future is the hybrid model where we have teams, individuals working a couple of days a week at home, a couple of days a week in the office. We have a lot more fluidity. We have a lot more trust, empowerment of the team members. But ultimately, I don't believe that there's a one rule approach. I think it's got to be situational. So it depends on the management style, the business, the market environment, depends on the client needs or the work needs, depends on the tenure of the individual. Did they just start or have they been with you for 10 years? So I think the answer is situational. Look at your own business if you're the leader of business or if you're the manager, and look at it from a context point of view and assess whether it suits the individual, whether it suits the business, and make the decision that way. But keep an eye on things.
Yeah.
So that way you can make adjustments. Like I had to make an adjustment when, I found out someone was smoking while I was at home.
Should have brought it to work.
Well, that's exactly it. Sharing is caring, right?
We don't endorse that. But look, I've got some observations. So yes, it's the future.
Yep.
We need to have that space, that break between work and home. That's really important. Workplaces, we didn't really talk about this, are going to have to change.
Yep.
Be more flexible. So rather than people having their own desk that they go to every day.
Floating desks.
Yeah, more meeting rooms, more flexible space. That is a good thing. There's a lot of good things coming in this. We can get more efficiency without having to travel.
Absolutely.
I think it unchokes if we do it the right way cities.
Yep.
And means that CBDs don't just become this clogged up mess every morning and every afternoon. And if we do this right and we take that break and we reflect, rest and reset, then we can be way more productive.
Absolutely.
And so there's a lot of good things to come out of the future.
Societies.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's all looking good.
Absolutely. So go work from home, but combine it with the face-to-face. Don't forget about face-to-face interactions, team lunches, all that sort of stuff.
Yes.
That all matters.
We didn't talk about the lunches. Next time we'll have to
Next time we'll talk about lunches.